part 2 of my response to Genesis Apologetics crappy video series. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more, sub and hit that bell icon. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Is it just me, or is dating rocks not all it's cracked up to be?
It's just you.
He's late. Again.
Sorry, I am late, Jane.
No problem. Oh, you've been jogging?
Yeah, I'm trying to get down to weight for the wrestling match this weekend.
Just an FYI, if you've been jogging and plan to meet someone before you take your next shower, put some deodorant on before and after. She should not be able to smell that on you.
Okay, well, we'd better get studying.
I got one more thing to do. I gotta weigh in.
Right now?
Yes, right now. I gotta get down below 230 before this weekend.
Then you don't have to weigh in right now. You can just weigh in before that weekend.
Otherwise, I'll get kicked up to the next weight division and have to face Jimmy the Python Peretti.
Jimmy the Python?
Yeah, he got his nickname after he squeezed a kid so hard that he was crawling to class for 3 days.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that. Poor kid.
All right.
Don't drink the water! You'll add water weight!
Oh no, I'll be fine.
Unless it's like Friday, that water weight won't really matter. You lose water weight really fast.
Oh no.
What's wrong?
245.
Oh.
245. Do you know what that means?
You know what? You'll be able to get down. Do not worry about it.
By Saturday, Jimmy the Python, here I come.
I'm sorry, John. Hey, maybe if you just grease yourself down, you'll just slip right out of his hands.
That's okay. Let's just get back to studying so I can go work out.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been doing a little healthy eating myself.
Well, if you want to get on the scale, be my guest.
In front of you? I don't think so.
All right. Just offering. Phone call. I gotta take this one. Hello, this is John. Sorry about that. We're working on radiometric dating, right?
Creationists talking about radiometric dating? This is gonna be fun.
Yep. Yeah, Radiometric dating.
Jane?
Oh, yeah. Sure. I've noticed this is one of the most heated battles, this whole dating issue.
No, it's not. No competent scientist rejects radiometric dating as a reliable method for dating the age of certain materials. It is only creationists rejecting proven science over and over and over again in an attempt to somehow legitimize their pseudoscientific position.
Well, that's because time is at the foundation for everything evolutionary theory teaches. Look, just read this section right here.
Evolution takes a long time. If life has evolved, then Earth must be very fat.
Old.
Not funny. But yes, it must be. And we know the Earth is old, and we know that evolution has happened, so what exactly is the issue?
Yeah, it says old.
Okay, and down here?
Oh, yeah.
Geologists now use radioactivity to establish the age of certain rocks and fossils. This kind of data could have shown that the Earth is young.
If that had happened, Darwin's ideas would have been refuted and abandoned. Instead, radioactive dating indicates the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. Plenty of time for evolution and natural selection to take place.
Yes, this is correct. This is all factual. Amazing! Something tells me they're gonna have more to say, though.
Wow, it seems that the foundation of evolutionary theory sure depends on radiometric dating.
Nope. Evolution requires time. We use radiometric dating to determine the age of the Earth, but it's not required. Assuming we had no idea what the age of the Earth is, it would be completely reasonable to just assume an old Earth, because we know evolution happened. If A requires B, and A is positive, then B is positive. It is not rocket science.
Radiometric dating is used to support the belief that millions of years exist for evolution to happen.
Yep, And like they said, the entire age of the Earth rests upon radiometric dating. It sure seems that they're putting a lot of faith in something that they can't actually test through direct observation. After all, plenty of assumptions go into these calculations.
If it were to be disproved, their whole worldview would seem to collapse. Without billions of years, you can't have biological evolution or geological evolution on Earth.
Well, we have the evidence that it happened, so where's the issue?
Pretty epic, eh? So, based on their dating methods, they've come up with an age for each section of the geologic column that we find on the very next page.
And based on that, they determine the age of the Earth to be about 4.5 billion years old.
Actually, the age of the Earth is based on the dating of certain meteorites.
Have you considered going and fucking yourself? Because you just told a lie. Not even a misrepresentation, a lie. An actually truly false statement in every sense of the word. I've linked an article down below to the oldest rocks ever, and while many are from space, many come from the Earth. It mentions the Isua Greenstone Belt, dated at 3.7 to 3.8 billion years, the Acasta Gneiss at 4.031 billion, the Nuvuagituk Greenstone Belt, dated at 3.7 to 4.37 billion, and while technically not a rock but a crystal, the Jack Hills Zircon, dated at 4.375 billion years.
They assume these meteorites formed at the same time as the Earth and that dating the meteorites will give us the age of the Earth.
Because they did, and because it does.
With that as a start, they then construct the ages of the layers in the column based primarily on the layers of volcanic ash and igneous rock. Cookie, I'm not gonna be...
Thanks. Wow, so they don't even use rock from Earth. I guess there's another assumption you don't hear about in class.
Because it's less of an assumption and more of an evidence-based conclusion. And again, we use Earth rocks. Stop lying.
So, for the test, could you remind me about how radiometric dating works?
Sure. Can you hand me my water bottle?
Wow, this thing's still half frozen.
Now, pretend the water bottle is a rock. Jane, what are you doing?
Pretending it's a rock.
Okay, well, rocks contain radioactive material called the parent element, or isotope, which decays into a non-radioactive stable product known as the daughter element, or isotope.
Okay, I remember now. So, it's like the ice that slowly melts into the water.
This is actually a really good analogy and one that I might use in the future to help explain the concept to people. But let's see how they mess this up.
Yeah. And in the biology book, there's a chart here that shows potassium-40 decaying into argon-40.
Okay, I see. So based on how we can measure it today, we assume that every 1.3 billion years, the amount of potassium-40 decreases by half.
We don't assume, we test the decay rate and then reverse engineer it.
Right, a radioactive half-life. So when they discover a rock, they can measure the amount of parent material and the amount of daughter product, and using a chart like this, determine how old it is.
So what's wrong with this method?
Aside from the fact that he just skipped a couple key points, nothing really. It's really consistent.
Well, the methods measure only the amounts of isotopes in the rock. This is good science because it is observable and repeatable. It just gives the ratio of one element to another. But the age is an interpretation of those measurements, not an observation.
It's the best interpretation we can get. Everything is an interpretation. I interpret your IQ to be below 40. We start with minimal assumptions and work our way up to get accurate ages.
And that interpretation assumes answers to all kinds of untested questions.
No, it doesn't. I'm starting to think you are proof of evolution. You're starting to sound a lot like a dumbass monkey.
What if the rock already had a daughter isotope in it from the very beginning?
Scientists already have thought of that. We only test formations that we know don't form with any daughter isotopes.
Or what if the rock gets contaminated?
That's fine. We can test for that. And we have thousands of aging samples. Are you going to tell me that they all got contaminated in exactly the same way to produce exactly the same wrong result?
Or what if the rate of decay was rattled at some point in the past?
What if it did? Good question. Is there any reason to assume it has? Because that would require a change in some of the fundamental forces of the universe. Unless you can prove it has, I'm going to assume it hasn't, because that makes significantly more sense.
What was the original ratio of parent to daughter isotope?
1 to 0. We only test rocks with no daughter isotopes. By doing it this way, we only need a ratio of parent to daughter to determine the age of the rock because we know all the initial conditions. All the daughter isotopes were once parent isotopes.
One must assume no parent or daughter material was added or removed from the rock, and that the rate of decay has always been constant over millions and millions of years.
Again, the rate of decay doesn't change, and we can be pretty sure the rocks haven't been contaminated.
Are those assumptions wrong? I mean, if you start with false assumptions, you could get really bad dates.
The assumptions aren't wrong, but that's a correct statement. Luckily, we can be quite sure in the assumptions that we do make to determine the ages of rocks.
Well, many scientists think they are, and our textbooks don't even tell us about all the assumptions required to date the rock.
No scientist that is taken seriously thinks radiometric dating is unreliable, and the textbooks don't tell you because there aren't really that many assumptions required. All of this information, however, is available online if you actually cared about the truth.
But the most convincing evidence is all the crazy dates they get with radioisotope methods.
We don't get crazy dates. We may have a couple outliers, but we get almost always very consistent dates across the board. Don't be fooled by confident con men telling you otherwise.
I wonder if our teacher even knows all the assumptions behind radiometric dating.
If you're in high school, almost certainly. But they're not assumptions, they're reasonable conclusions.
To be fair, there are lots of dates that agree with one another, but there are many examples of different mineral components of a rock giving very different radiometric dates, and very often different isotope systems give different ages for the same rock.
Damn, wouldn't it be nice if you cited some sources?
So how can you know which one is the right age, if any? And then there are rocks we know the age of, where we watched it cool from lava, that give radically older dates.
Damn, wouldn't it be nice if you cited some sources?
Really?
Yeah.
A lava flow in a volcano of the North Island of New Zealand that happened in 1954 was dated to be 3.5 million years old.
You very conveniently cropped it out here to further brainwash your viewers, but if you're going to cite a source, make it a peer-reviewed, reliable scientific journal, not the Institute of Goddamn Creation Research. Maybe it's just me, but a paper only published in the ICR may have some kind of bias involved.
Wow, that's really off.
A volcanic bomb that blew out of Mount Stromboli in Italy in 1963 was dated at 2.4 million years old.
Again, I only found this in the ICR, not a reliable source.
And that dated much older than it really was.
A 10-year-old rock from Mount St. Helens lava dome dated to 350,000 years and older.
I actually just couldn't find this anywhere. If someone knows what they're referring to, please leave a comment and I'll pin it.
If we can't trust radiometric dating on rocks that we can see formed, then how can we trust radiometric dating on rocks that we can see formed?
We can trust it, you're just being lied to.
Rocks that supposedly formed a million years ago.
I know, right? And there are so many other examples. Check this out. Okay.
What's this? You carry rocks in your backpack while you're jogging?
Hey, hardcore.
I'd recommend getting a properly fitted weight vest. They can be a little expensive, but bags tend to jump around quite a lot while jogging. If you'd rather not spend the money, just remember to tighten the straps around the shoulders as much as possible to minimize the bag's movement.
Okay, this rock was taken from the Ono Formation near Redding, California, where millions of sea fossils have been found. This lower Cretaceous rock is supposed to be about 112 million years old, but the marine fossil stuck inside the mud rock, an ammonite, showed 36,000 radiocarbon years.
Hold on. Radiocarbon? Are you fucking kidding me? Anyone with any scientific background will tell you that radiocarbon is unreliable after 20,000 years because the carbon-14 has decayed to the point and you're only left with the background radiation of cosmic rays and potentially some potassium-40. The NCSE, National Center for Science Education, has a great article on attacks made by creationists on radiocarbon dating that I'll link below. Well worth a read if you want to avoid creationist dogma or escape their cult. And none of that is to mention the fact that you shouldn't be citing answers in Genesis as a source anyway.
How can a rock be 112 million years old if it holds a fossil of only 36,000 years using a different method?
That's equivalent to asking, How come my toothpick didn't go through the body armor, but the anti-tank missile killed him? You're using a method that you definitely shouldn't be using given the context and what we know about carbon-14.
I wonder if either date is meaningful.
Oh, I can answer that. The date of the rock is, the date of the fossil isn't, unless you're going to redate the fossil with a more reliable method.
Seems kinda suspicious to me. The evidence isn't seeming too rock solid.
I don't know what's worse, the misinformation or these puns. You should be put in jail for attempted murder. If I hear another one of those jokes, I'm gonna have a 13th reason why.
Funny. Let me see your diamond ring.
You mean my purity ring?
Purity rings are dumb.
It's got a diamond on it, doesn't it?
Sure, I mean, check it out. Aren't they brilliant? Hey, at the jewelry store, the sign said diamonds take billions of years to form deep beneath the earth.
They do. The diamonds we see today were formed around 3 billion years ago, deep in the Earth's crust where the staggering heat and the crushing pressure forced the carbon atoms to crystallize. The Cape Town Diamond Museum has an article about diamond formation that I can link down below.
I doubt that. Researchers find carbon-14 in diamonds.
Why is that important?
Radiocarbon decays quickly. It has a half-life of only about 5,730 years. So its maximum shelf life is only about 100,000 years before it becomes undetectable. And it might be impossible to contaminate an old diamond with young carbon.
Wow, so those diamonds must be younger than they think.
They do not have radiocarbon in them. Radiocarbon dating is not done by measuring for carbon-14 isotopes themselves. I'm not even sure if that's possible. Instead, you measure the beta particles emitted by the carbon-14. The problem? Once you get to lower carbon-14 levels, let's say any object older than around 20,000 years, it becomes practically indistinguishable to detect for these carbon-14 beta particles as opposed to beta particles from background radiation. Again, the NCSE article, linked down below, explains all of this.
So here's the real question. Why are any of these examples in our textbook? Well, I should get back to working out and... What? This scale is reading an extra 15 pounds on it.
What? This scale is evil!
Calm down. It just wasn't calibrated, okay? See?
Okay.
All right, 229. Safe. Hey, that's kind of like radiometric dating.
No, it's not. You are not qualified to make analogies like this when you fail to grasp the most simple concepts of science.
Maybe everyone's been trusting that it's accurate, but it's been giving them false numbers.
A more accurate analogy would be a scale that reads perfectly, but you have some kind of paranoid schizophrenia and you think all the scale manufacturers are maliciously tampering with the scales to make you think that you weigh more than you do.
All the overwhelming evidence that it doesn't work consistently. I'm surprised that they present it with such confidence in our textbooks.
At a middle to high school level, it's not expected that you'd ask so many questions, so they don't take the time to explain everything. If you had taken the time to speak to a college professor, or even just a qualified high school physics or chem teacher, they could have easily answered all these questions for you and probably would have been delighted to do so.
Jane, it goes back to the original quote we read in the book. If they're wrong about dating rocks, then the entire evolutionary theory crumbles to pieces.
Actually, the textbook stated that evolution requires time, not that evolution requires rocks to demonstrate time. We can easily use all the already overwhelming evidence for evolution to just assume the Earth is old, unless someone else comes out with actual evidence to prove it's young. But that's beside the point. All available scientific evidence, including radiometric dating, points to an old Earth.
That's true. None of us were there to verify the assumptions.
I'm sorry that the universe's galactic timescale doesn't conform to your human lifespan, but that's not proof that evolution or the timescale in question isn't true.
But God has provided a written account of history. And if you tally up all the chronologies and time cues in the Bible, the Earth is about 6,000 years old.
So we trust God's word instead of man's fallible dating methods.
I'd rather stick with just debunking the pseudoscientific creationist claims here instead of going after Christianity or religions as a whole, because I think the pseudoscience has a significantly more damaging effect. But it's worth pointing out that A, you're yet to present any evidence that God is real, B, you're yet to present any evidence that the Bible is His word, And C, you're yet to explain how our dating methods are fallible because they're made by men, but the Bible, which was at best inspired by God and then written by men, is any less fallible.
It's like it says in Job 38:4. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. It's like God saying, you weren't there.
Kind of makes you think, doesn't it?
Makes me think about how many brain cells I lost watching this. That was cringe. Have a good one, lads. I'll see you next time.